Tell me a little bit about Flagship today. Let's start there.
I think that Flagship today is in probably a really kind of an inflection point for us, and there's a real opportunity for us probably to take our program to the next level. I think that the team that we have in place and the partnership that we've had in place for the last 19 years has been a slow grind, but in a very positive way, because we've really resisted the temptation to take, I think, the institutional capital and go real fast, and that over the long haul has really paid dividends for us and put us in a position, especially now, kind of in a post-COVID world, to really um, to really play the game at, I think, the highest level. And so it's a pretty exciting time for us.
It is exciting. So what are the units of Flagship? What are the different divisions or operating units of Flagship today?
Well, so for the most part, everything kind of is centralized with a common holding company, and that is Flagship LLC. But within Flagship LLC, we've got Blue Sushi, and there's 15 of those today, with another 3 that will open up this year. There's Plank Seafood. We just opened up the second one, and working on more of those. If we don't get them open this year, they'll start opening early next year. There's our really bar forward concept, which is Anthem, and then the second iteration of that's in Austin, Texas. The second iteration that will be in Phoenix here, opening later this year. I see those 3 as probably our current growth vehicles in order, in the order that I mentioned them. And then we've got some sort of one-off passion projects that we'll see what happens with those, from Champagne Lanes to this Ghost Donkey thing that we're working on in partnerships with Ivan Orkin and the Food Hall, and even Black Beer and Table, and our Tex-Mex concept. So there's a lot of one-off stuff in there that can go different directions, but I think we're kind of balancing the one-off stuff with our various our few different growth vehicles. So
amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing diversification you've had in a relatively short period of time and continuously innovating. I mean, obviously I saw Plank's initial location was what year was that? Was it?
I think that we're on year 9 right now. So 2012 maybe.
Yeah, amazing. And the latest version in Domain now, and you can see those design elements. A lot of those same design elements stayed with you, and obviously this iteration is beautiful what you've done in Domain. So we're giving us a little background on you. I mean, you're born in Omaha, right?
I was born in Omaha. Yeah, I was born in Omaha, and I decided to go to the University of Arizona for undergrad, which is somewhat is a serendipitous kind of decision for me, because that is where I started eating sushi, and that was in the mid 90s when I was in college at U of A. That was kind of a big thing for everybody to go and do, was to go out for sushi, and that certainly did not exist in the Midwest at that time. That culture did not exist in the Midwest at that time, but it did down in the Southwest and in Tucson, and college kids were all doing that, and I kind of fell in love with the food. And from the U of A, went to law school in San Diego, and graduated from law school, got my license to practice law, but never started practicing. Really never had that much of an interest in representing clients in that way. I always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. So when I went back to the Midwest, there's just this noticeable void in the market for kind of elevated dining, and especially sushi. And I was just kind of young and dumb enough at that time to think that I had what it took to pull it off. And you hear a lot of people say when they're starting a business and reflecting back on it, that the naivete they had was really probably one of their best resources. And I think that was probably true for us as well. We didn't know what we were doing necessarily, but it was bliss, I guess, in that sense. So it was fortunate converging of events.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So really, I mean, what motivated you in the restaurant space? I mean, the pure fact of, hey, we like sushi. I love sushi. I'm in college, Arizona. Let's go. Let's do this thing. I mean, I see an opportunity coming from the University of Arizona to back to home, and you saw a void in the marketplace. That's kind of what.
Yeah, I mean, my family had done commercial real estate development in the Midwest, and especially in Omaha, and I had some experience in that and had worked with them in that a little bit. So I generally understood, I guess, retail and, retail real estate and that world, but I wasn't, and I appreciate it. And I'm still, somewhat involved in that with the family, but I wasn't super motivated to kind of grow that business. I was really more interested in doing something that had, I don't know, in my sense, just more energy to it, I guess, and
Yeah.
more something more dynamic and something more, I wasn't super interested in retail per se, but just and then I'd fallen in love with food, and then some of my friends as well had, and they're now my partners, and so just again, it was I did see a void in the marketplace, and I was lucky enough to find just a few people that are still with me today as my partners that were kind of the missing link to what we all brought something different to the party, and we were all just 9 out of 10 people said we were crazy, but at least the 4 of us kind of believed in what we were doing, and it worked out for us.
So, tell me a little bit about, if you don't mind, like, did you have some mentors in the F&B space? Did you have, how did you bridge over like getting into this new field, this new area?
No, I mean, to be honest, no, I had no clue. We knew we wanted to do something that was different than what was being done in town. So there wasn't really anybody directly to reach out to that I felt very confident in asking opinions. We just did a lot of research, and we kind of generally knew. I mean, first of all, unit number one, myself and my partners were working in there, on a daily basis, and so that was in large part offsetting what we worry about today on our labor costs, because it was just us in there kind of sweating it out for the most part. Didn't really know what our cost of goods should be looking like, but did enough research to know that ballpark where we should fall. The real estate was family owned real estate, so had some kind of some mitigation there in terms of that downside exposure,
Sure.
and just kind of got in there, and we were collectively, we had a strong community around us, and I mean, in retrospect, our sales were not much that first year, but to us at that time, they were off the charts. So
Yeah.
it's we just kind of started swinging, and again, I mean, the first unit was pretty strong out of the gates, and so we had the benefit of sales, and
Yeah.
that kind of carried us. Future stores, we had some challenges, in the past that, after that first store, and I think back, if the second store we opened was more of a challenge than the first. If the second store would have been the first, that might have been the only store we ever did. So it kind of, we're lucky like that too.
Today, the industry obviously has evolved quite a bit since you jumped in. What do you see as the biggest challenge today, building a national brand? Obviously, what you've done. What do you think what headwinds are you facing in this industry?
I mean, everybody always talks about labor, and I think that labor is a huge concern, but so to not really spend too much time thinking about that and just recognizing that is like something that will inevitably, be a challenge. I think what's interesting since when we started, the legacy brands, were very much in vogue still. I mean, the Cheesecake Factory and P.F. Chang's and these guys that did it,
Yeah.
like that was the way of the world at that point in time. And I think that what started to happen kind of right after we got into the business just nationally was, more of a focus on dining and culture and social media, and that being what, excited people. And so people started, I think that generally the consumer started slowly pivoting away from a lot of the legacy brand stuff, because they started to kind of identify with the one-off or the local operator or this or that. And I think that really kind of helped us along the way. And so on a go forward basis, as I look at it, I've also often said, I think that the quickest path to the biggest pile of money for us would have just been to take our original Blue Sushi concept and do 50 of them as quickly as we could. But we couldn't help ourselves but to get kind of involved into other concepts. And although, that probably slowed us down over the years, I think it has also paid dividends, because now we're in a place where we do have kind of some multiple concepts that are making gains in different markets. And I think our brands still have a spirit, because we haven't gone out there and raised the big institutional money and tried to go public or anything, on that scale. we've kept it somewhat boutique at the brand level, and so I think that's kind of extended the the life expectancy of these brands, because they still have a spirit, because they're not overexposed, and there's still something special about them, and it still resonates with people. And I think that's probably important today, as operators think to scale. It's about thinking, how can you keep that spirit? People often say that they want to support local, and I get what they're saying, but I don't know I'm not always sold that that's exactly what they mean. I think that they really, what they want to do is they want to support brands that still have a soul, that still mean something, that still mean for something, that still feel, they still have a tangible flavor to them, and a spirit to them, and a soul to them. And you go too big too fast, and you lose that somewhere along the way. And so I think it's all about trying to keep it in check, and keep those things in place.
Yeah, it's well said. What about inspiration today? I know you travel, you love to travel. Every time I talk to you, it sounds like there's a new trip planned. What's the what has been a source of inspiration for you?
Yeah, I mean, I do love to travel. Just in this last year, because we've been so limited in terms of what we can do on the travel front. I mean, I've probably been to Mexico 5 times, and I might go again next week. And one thing that has been a recent inspiration is just interior Mexico. I mean, we're doing this mezcal concept with Averco Group in Denver, and then later this year in Phoenix, Ghost Donkey, and so I'm thinking about getting down to Oaxaca in the near term. I was just in Mexico City last week, but kind of everything Mexico, like interior Mexico, is like currently super inspiring. Not as much the coast, because everybody's kind of been there and done that and seen all that, but there's this whole incredible, like, cosmopolitan, and meets rural, meets modern, meets tradition, like interior Mexico, that everybody just kind of misses. And they're doing things down there culinarily, and from a design perspective, and a service perspective, that would just blow your mind, but everybody overlooks it and doesn't pay much attention to it. But there's a huge amount of inspiration down there. If you tap into that, it's just, bring it into, or weave it into the brands that we have, not calling it or referring. It's not Mexican per se. I mean, it is, but it's not. But not in a traditional sense. It's very modern, and cutting edge, and on trend, and really some neat stuff.
That's exciting. So you recently moved to Phoenix from Omaha, right? You're full-time in Phoenix now, or
Yes.
we're back and forth a little bit. How has that been? What's the restaurant scene look different? I'm just curious in your perspective of Omaha. I mean, you went to school obviously down here in Phoenix, so the industry, the market. But how does it look? How does it feel? I mean, you're the big guy in Omaha. Does it feel humbling a little bit to be in Phoenix, and how all these other operators around you that?
Yeah, humbling, but it's great. I mean, I kind of welcome the challenge. We'll get some stuff open down here, and I mean, we got one significant project opening up here later this year, and several more that I'm kind of working on, striking deals with various landlords on. And it humbling, but then you spend time down here, or in different markets, and you visit different places, and there's some people down here doing some great work. But I don't go to their restaurants and think that they necessarily have anything on us, or us on them. I'm not. I think that we're all playing the same game, and I like it. It's inspiring, because on any given Monday or Tuesday night, I can go out to dinner at somebody's restaurant, and it's a restaurant that I maybe it's new source of inspiration. I think it's been positive overall for the
Awesome.
company. Yeah.
Is there anything in your obviously no restaurant career, or really, I don't know if any operators had a nice linear growth curve like this, of any concept, or just the ups and downs of the business and the industry. I mean, is there anything in particular that sticks out to your mind that it was a pause, it was a, do we want to do this, or a challenge that you had to overcome, or just a real really a inflection point potentially?
Like going all the way back to the beginning, there was a couple of, I mean, I think when we got to about unit number 4, 3, maybe we were opening 4. I mean, there was that moment in time where you kind of decide, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're all going to do this together, and you're going to have to build out a corporate office, right? I mean, that was one certain like kind of inflection point where you just kind of commit to the fact that you're going to dedicate a certain percent of your sales or your bottom line to supporting, really a real back office, a real marketing department, a real, accounting department, and all these things. I mean, when you got 1 or 2 units, you can kind of just, you and the partners can kind of circle away and get it figured out. But if you go into growth mode, then you got to kind of make that, leap. And then when you make that leap, then at a certain point, you're probably asking yourself whether or not you want to bring on, institutional capital, family office money or private equity or whatever. And I, gosh, I mean, it was certainly, there were times when I wanted to do it just because I had the drive or the desire to go faster. I think that in our case, it was, it benefited us that we did not do it. I think that it kind of slowed us down a little bit, and it really made us reflect and kind of, every dollar that we invest is our own dollar. And I think it probably paid dividends for us in the long run. And then I think that, having gone through this last year of COVID, I mean, prior to COVID, for the previous couple of years prior to COVID, I think we were cautious about our growth because nobody was predicting COVID, but I think that we had a sense that, the US economy had grown pretty aggressively for an extended period of time, and eventually there'd be a little bit of a slowback. And so I think I was kind of cautious. I didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, but then, not seeing COVID, of course, then COVID was something that didn't expect, but then in a sense did expect some kind of a economic shock at some point to happen. And then as of July this last year during COVID, kind of decided, okay, well, that was the economic shock, I guess, that, we felt was eventually going to come, and turns out that we think we're going to survive it. And so now it's just time to, go put the pedal to the metal for a little while here and kind of grow or rebound on the backside. So I think that we've, in terms of those various elements and the timing of them and I think those have all been, I think we've navigated those various, challenges, effectively, not to say we haven't had other ones, problems, store costs and things like that, but I think that, those were all probably catalysts that we came out on the other side of that really kind of propelled us to a little bit higher level.
Right. How would your partners describe you if you weren't in the room?
I mean, I think that they would say that I'm thoughtful. I think that they would say that I have all of our best interests in mind. I think that they would say that the space, I guess, that I occupy within the organization, that they trust me in that role, and that I have, I think, over the long haul demonstrated a capacity to make good decisions, at least when it comes to like the financial well-being of the company and kind of a strategic, growth plan for the company. I think that they would, feel confident, I guess, in me in those roles. But I think they would also probably say that I'm somewhat introverted of an individual, and that I'm not somebody who necessarily seeks all of the attention. I don't necessarily shy away from it all the time either, but I don't know. There might be some criticisms in there I'm not fully aware of.
Not too many. I can't imagine too many. So what do you see like in potential trends in the industry? I mean, obviously I feel like you're on the edge, and you've led creating a sushi concept to me that is positioned perfectly in the industry today. You've got a new seafood concept that obviously Plank is open a second one and has a lot of growth ahead of it. And then we're doing a Champagne Lanes, super exciting, in Phoenix, and you get so many innovations that I feel like you're in Pyro, which I don't think we didn't talk about, which is super exciting as well. So it seems like you're always on edge. You're always innovating. You're even within your own concepts. Blue, how does Blue look differently? What did version 2.0 of Plank? What changes have been created based on, the industry?
Well, I guess first of all, I would say that I think fortunately for us in the restaurant industry, the restaurants still seem to be something that you can't, put in a box and convert to, digital internet traffic and all of that. And so people are still looking to this industry as an outlet, as a form of entertainment, as an opportunity maybe to expand their horizons, culinarily speaking, or from, cocktails and wine and beer. I mean, I still like, there's still this kind of very tangible, visceral experience to dining. I think that's what people are looking for. I think that what we have done well at Blue, and for the last 19 years now, you've seen some sushi operators kind of come and go, but I think that the difference between us and them, or a good, successful, long-term kind of restaurant in today's world, is that you have to evolve. I think that the concept has to evolve, and I think that in the old world, in the old days, in the old legacy brand way of doing things, it was more a matter of you come up with a menu and people that first iteration of it everybody loved, and then big money would come in and they would take that concept and they would figure out how to cut all these costs out, which would mean maybe less expensive product, or getting rid of items that didn't have the proper cost of goods association, and really in a way you start to kind of dumb down the experience a little bit and suck out some of the soul of the place in order to make the numbers work for you, and then scale. We've kind of not gone the other direction. I mean, we certainly we're really cognizant of our costs, and we want to run great costs. We try and manage our menu in order to accomplish that. But if you look at our menu from 2002 and you track the changes that happened over the 19 years of Blue Sushi, I think you'll see that in 2002 we were serving, in large part, what people were eating in those days. There's a lot of California rolls and a lot of very simple kind of American palate sushi type of product. And if you look at our menu today, it's much more aligned with sea urchin. I mean, there's much more things such as sea urchin on there. We've got a huge vegetarian and vegan section of the menu, a lot more new world sashimis. And so I think we've taken the menu from something that was innovative in 2002, but by today's standards, fairly simple fare, and kept pace with changing trends. And then we've done the same thing with the ambiance inside the restaurants as well. We invest a lot more money, into the interiors than we did certainly, 19 years ago, or even 10 or 5 years ago. And so just, I think it's super important with each concept that those concepts evolve, and you're not stamping out the same, units today, or the same menu and design everything as you were 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think time catches up with you. There's an inflationary kind of
Yeah,
effect.
that's a really good point. It's a really good point. It's like you could probably look at your menu at Blue and tell you what year it is.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there was a period of time, and I'll credit a couple of my partners more to that change than even myself, because there were times there, probably 10 or 11, 12 years ago, when man, it seemed like we were changing the menu every 3 months, and it was starting to drive me crazy a little bit, because I just wanted to find something and stick with it and get on with it. But it was important. It was important to do that, with the menu, and it's important to do that with the atmosphere and and everything. You just have to keep up with the times. I think as long as you do that, I mean,
Yeah.
there's you have a good opportunity. I think I'd be perfectly happy having 25 Blues that just really stand the test of time and are here for decades to come, versus 60 or 70, but having them kind of be a flash in the pan and come and go, and
Great. That's awesome. So Nick, last question, what do you find the most enjoyment outside of work? What do you enjoy doing?
Oh, I mean, I love to travel.
Yeah.
To the point where I burn myself out on it, and then but I love to travel. I am, I guess, super fortunate in the fact that I really do like what I do and what we do, and I really appreciate the partnership that I have with these guys. And so I like to eat out, and I like to check out the new cocktail places, and I all the time go to restaurants and cocktail bars, and and this isn't like some big operation necessarily. You go to the local cocktail bar down the street, and you get jealous of what they're doing, because you're like, wow, this is super cool, and you guys are just starting out, and this is you guys got it going on. You figure, So I like all of that, you know, and then of course I've got a couple of kids and I love kind of, they're still young, but I'd love to see them kind of get engaged in that a little bit as well, and to travel with them and to watch them kind of, you know, find their passions in the world. And so, yeah, that's, you know, my home life, my personal life, and the business life are all, it's just all one.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, today it's the right way to do it. It's really it's
Mhm.
like the right way to do it. International travel, obviously, I've as much as I've known you, you've always loved going and experiencing the new cuisines and the new hot restaurants were the top. Wondering why that is a top 10 restaurant, and
Oh,
you're just rattling off to a landlord about this restaurant in Singapore. You're gonna go visit. And it's
yeah, and one of my favorite of all of them is Pujol down in Mexico City, and it's only like, you know, it's only what, a couple hour flight from Houston or something, you know, and not enough people go down to see that, but it's, you know, it's, yeah,
cool.
incredible. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Loved it. Thanks for all the insights.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. We'll see you.